It's Monday morning from Simpsonville, South Carolina, and it's overcast with a chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. I think a little bit like the Florida weather where they're getting so much rain. Today's subject is anger. There's a lot of different kinds of anger, isn't there? There's jealous anger. I certainly had that when I was dating in my high school and junior high school years. There's wronged anger when someone wrongs you. In the scriptures, jealous anger cannot always have to be a male and a female. It can be Saul and David. Saul was jealous of David's accomplishments. And many times in adult life, we find the jealous anger has nothing to do with romance, but rather a jealousy of somebody's accomplishments or good fortune or whatever the case might be. Wronged anger is like the elder son in the story of the prodigal. We feel like we've been wronged. Somebody has done us wrong, and we want to react to that wrong that's been done to us. And then there's righteous anger, the kind of anger that Jesus had when he cleared the temple. So we see a lot of different types of anger, but we all know that anger left unchecked, left undealt with, can be a very dangerous thing. And if the book of Ephesians in chapter 4, verses 25 through 27 says, speak truth. Now, I think that needs to be tempered with the fact that we speak truth with love and gentleness, which is certainly covered in the scripture, not in that particular passage, but that's exactly what the scripture does say about speaking truth, that it needs to always be in love and gentleness. And it says, be angry, but don't let the sin come into your life, and don't let the sun go down on your anger. So it's one thing to be angry. It's another thing to act on that anger and to create a sinful situation. And here in verse 26, it tells us that we need to be sure that we deal with that anger in a timely fashion. I don't think it's always necessary to deal with it before the sun goes down. As a matter of fact, sometimes I think that can be damaging, because sometimes you need to let people cool off, and you need to cool off, and you need to get perspective. However, you don't want to let it go a long time, because the more time you let go by with that anger, the more it builds up in your mind and becomes bigger than it really was. And so you want to deal with the anger in a timely fashion. And it says, when we deal with anger, if we don't deal with it in a timely fashion, we've given an opportunity for the devil. And boy, have I seen that in a number of times and ways in my own life and in people around me, where when anger is not dealt with, and the truth of the anger hasn't come through, then the devil just has a field day. He climbs up on the shoulder of the one that's angry, builds up the situation worse than it was, and for those that become the recipients of that anger, the damage is even greater. So what's the cure for anger? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to confess it. We need to acknowledge the fact that we are angry, and we need to confess that that anger is a danger in our lives if we don't deal with it. In Psalm 37, verse 8, it says, cease and forsake wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil doing. And that's what happens when bitterness and anger builds up. It causes us to not only fret, but sometimes leads to evil doing. Proverbs 14:17 says, a quick-tempered man acts foolishly. And many times people act foolishly when they're angry and when they allow that anger to build up in their lives. Proverbs 29:22 says, an angry man stirs strife. A hot-tempered person abounds in transgressions. And so we see these words of warning about how anger kept inside is almost like a pressure cooker. It can explode, and if not dealt with properly. Matthew 5:24 says, be reconciled to your brother. Again, that gets back to the not letting the sun set. Well, we need in a timely fashion to try to reconcile with our brother. But remember also, sometimes it's frustrating because you can only go so far with a reconciliation. So far as in your power, you need to try to reconcile. Once you've done all that you can do, Don't let the anger be multiplied by the fact that the other person wouldn't reconcile with you. Sometimes you just have to move on and pray that someday they'll forgive, or that they'll lose their own anger. Matthew 5:24 tells us without a doubt we need to be reconciled. And then we need to ask ourselves honestly and truly, from the book of Jonah in chapter 4, verse 4, do we have any right to be angry? If we really examine honestly the situation, do we really have any right to be angry? Then finally, I want to leave you with a phrase that I heard in a great sermon one day, which is that the acid of anger hurts more the vessel in which it is stored than the object in which it is poured. Let me say that again for you. The acid of anger damages more the vessel in which it's stored than the object in which it is poured. Hope that you'll admit any anger that you have. Hope that you'll deal with it in a timely fashion, and as much as is in your power, you reconcile to your brother. But don't let it fester, and certainly don't give the devil an opportunity. That's your thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.